Although Wang Zhuo appeared to be an aged and weathered elder, Wang Lin instantly recognized him. A wave of sorrow surged within Wang Zhuo's heart. Over the course of this journey, half of their group of more than 10 had already perished. Such battles had become a daily occurrence for him over the past few years, and with each passing day, the shadow of death grew ever darker. The surrounding cultivation nations had all fallen one by one, some annihilated, others reduced to vassals of the immortal remnant clan. A third-tier cultivation nation was not the primary battleground for the immortal remnant clan. It was merely a place where they trained low-ranking clansmen in battle experience. The Vermilion Bird Nation didn't pay much attention to the third-tier cultivation nations. They only sent a few early-stage spirit transformation cultivators. However, as the battle dragged on, the Vermilion Bird Nation eventually withdrew all of their emissaries from these nations, abandoning them altogether. In the eyes of the Vermilion Bird Nation, nascent soul cultivators were insignificant in this war. Wang Zhuo let out a bitter smile as he looked at another one of his fellow disciples falling beside him. The 4 Immortal Remnant clan members, though clearly at the late core formation stage, didn't immediately strike to kill. Instead, they pursued the group, teasing them along the way. At that moment, a shooting star suddenly streaked across the sky, emitting an unimaginable aura. The 4 Immortal Remnant clan members were immediately shocked, and all turned to look. In the blink of an eye, the meteor vanished. A figure dressed in white with flowing long hair appeared in front of them in mere steps. The 4 Immortal Remnant clan members immediately changed expressions. They sensed a trembling aura emanating from this man. This aura could only belong to a spell curse master of their clan who was above the 7 Leaves rank. Infant metamorphosis. One of the Immortal Remnant clan members stammered, his voice trembling. He gasped, and without a second thought, turned and fled. The other 3 immediately followed. Wang Lin's gaze was icy. He slapped his storage pouch, and the mosquito beast flew out. Without waiting for instructions, it roared and dashed toward the 4 fleeing figures, catching up with them faster than lightning. The sound of their screams echoed as the 4 were instantly slaughtered, becoming the mosquito beast's meal. The scene unfolded too quickly, leaving Wang Zhuo and the others speechless. Wang Lin turned around, looking at Wang Zhuo with a slight smile and asked, "Wang Zhuo, do you recognize me?" "Senior. It's you." Wang Zhuo was stunned for a moment before immediately recognizing that the person before him was the one who had undergone spirit transformation at Mount Hengyue all those years ago. Wang Lin shook his head and said, "It's been many years since we last met. You've reached the late core formation stage, congratulations. Never mind, I'll help you this time and assist you in forming your nascent soul." With that, Wang Lin raised his right hand, pointing it at Wang Zhuo's forehead. The seal in Wang Zhuo's mind was instantly shattered, and the memories of his past life flooded over him like a tidal wave. His body swayed, and he fell unconscious. Wang Lin cast a cold glance at the other disciples. They were all at the early core formation stage, except for one who was at the mid-core formation stage. Inside him was a spirit seed left by Wang Lin from years ago. "Where are you heading?" Wang Lin asked. The man with the spirit seed, an elderly cultivator, trembled slightly under Wang Lin's gaze and hurriedly replied, "We were ordered to assist a neighboring nation, but sadly, it has fallen to the Immortal Remnant clan. We've been fighting our way back and are planning to return to the Zhao Kingdom." Wang Lin slapped his storage pouch again, and a jade slip appeared in his hand. He left a hint of his conceptual realm upon it and tossed it to the elder, saying flatly, "Take this. It will ensure your safe return to the Zhao Kingdom. Go ahead." The elder caught it eagerly, his face filled with excitement. To him, this item was a matter of life and death. Wang Lin waved his hand, and Wang Zhuo was pulled into the air, vanishing from the spot in an instant. The elder took a deep breath and bowed respectfully in the direction where Wang Lin had disappeared. This bow was sincere, with no distractions in his heart. "Uncle Master, who was that senior?" asked a middle-aged man cautiously. The elder's face revealed a trace of nostalgia as he softly replied, "He is the only spirit transformation cultivator from the Zhao Kingdom." "A spirit transformation cultivator? He's from the Zhao Kingdom?" The middle-aged man gasped in surprise. "He, you should have heard of his name." The elder moved forward, flying toward the distance, with the others following closely behind. "Wang Lin. His name is Wang Lin." Upon hearing the name Wang Lin, the middle-aged man and the others, including the large man, trembled. Their eyes filled with shock. In the Zhao Kingdom's cultivation world, the name Wang Lin represented overwhelming killing intent and a past catastrophe. That day, the blood flowed like rivers, and the land of Zhao was stained with blood. This was something that no one could ever forget. To this day, the Ting family cataclysm was still a story that circulated throughout the Zhao kingdom's cultivation world, constantly remembered by people, even becoming the lifelong pursuit of many young cultivators. Atop a mountain, Wang Zhuo slowly regained consciousness. The moment he opened his eyes, a trace of confusion appeared on his face. But this confusion quickly faded, and his gaze gradually became calm as he looked toward the white figure standing in the wind beside him. Wang Lin. A bitter voice emerged from Wang Zhuo's mouth. Wang Zhuo. Wang Lin turned around and smiled back at him. Wang Zhuo gazed at Wang Lin. Memories from his past life echoed in his mind, eventually settling on the image of his wife dying in his arms, and with a soft sigh, he spoke. Thank you. Wang Lin shook his head and said, the Wang family once had many, but now it's just the two of us. There's no need to speak of thanks. You, what cultivation level have you reached now? Could it be infant metamorphosis? Wang Zhuo hesitated and asked. Not yet at infant metamorphosis. Wang Lin looked off into the distance. Time flies. It seems like just yesterday. I still remember when we were at Heng Yue's sect. Sigh. Wang Zhuo sighed softly. Wang Zhuo, what happened on Vermilion Birdstar in recent years? How did the Immortal Remnant clan appear? Wang Lin's gaze flickered as he asked. Wang Zhuo was stunned. You don't know. Wang Lin shook his head and said, I haven't been on Vermilion Birdstar for the last 7 years. Wang Zhuo's heart jolted. Wang Lin's words were casual, but to him, they felt completely different. Not on Vermilion Birdstar. With Wang Lin's cultivation, he could break through the void. Wang Zhuo took a deep breath and began recounting everything he knew about recent events. Wang Lin remained calm, but inside, his heart was in turmoil. The Immortal Remnant clan had invaded, and nearly all level 3 cultivation nations had fallen. Even the level 4 cultivation nations were on the verge of collapse. Vermilion Bird Nation resisted with all its might, but still kept losing ground. The Corpsine sect intervened to fully support the Immortal Remnant clan, and 5 level 4 cultivation nations successively betrayed their allies. Now, half of Vermilion Birdstar was under the control of the Immortal Remnant clan. It is rumored that the Immortal Remnant clan sent out 9 people. The identities of 5 have now been exposed, but 4 are still unknown. It is certain they hold high positions in level 5 or higher cultivation nations, Wang Zhuo spoke slowly. Wang Lin was silent. He never expected such drastic changes in just a few short years. Soul Refining Sect. Wang Lin took a deep breath. He needed to return to the Soul Refining Sect immediately to see if anything had changed there. Wang Zhuo only knew the rumors. He had no concrete knowledge about the Soul Refining Sect. Wang Lin, could you go back to Zhao Kingdom to help with their crisis? Wang Zhuo fell silent for a moment, then spoke slowly. Also, the Wang family still has descendants. Over the years, I have been secretly looking after them, hoping that ordinary people wouldn't be affected by this war. However, while assisting a neighboring country in the battle, I heard that the Immortal Remnant clan is searching for children with spiritual roots. I fear that if any of the Wang family's descendants have children with spiritual roots, they will attract the attention of the Immortal Remnant clan. Unfortunately, I haven't returned in many years, and I don't know if any such children exist. Vermilion Birdstar, Zhao Kingdom, rainy night. Outside the capital of Zhao Kingdom's mortal realm, a carriage sped along. Go, go. A bald giant sat at the front of the carriage, wielding a whip and shouting anxiously, glancing back from time to time. The horse cried out in pain as the whip struck, increasing its speed. Mother, where are we going? A child's innocent voice came from inside the carriage. We're going to the ancestral residence. Only there will you be safe, came a soft and soothing voice, though tinged with worry. Mother, I was with the third prince yesterday. He told me that Zhao Kingdom is in danger. It seems like someone is fighting with the immortals. Is that true? The child, named Ware, continued. Ware, rest now. Don't ask so many questions, a deep voice replied from within the carriage. Inside the carriage were 3 people, a couple and a child. The woman wore a palace gown, appearing quite enchanting, with a beauty mark at the corner of her mouth, enhancing her grace. The man wore a dragon robe, his appearance imposing and dignified. His presence alone conveyed authority, a natural aura from holding high office for many years. As for the child, he appeared to be around 6 or 7 years old, with a small, rosy face, looking almost sculpted in jade, extremely cute. The carriage fell into silence, with only the occasional shout from the bald giant outside and the rhythmic sound of raindrops on the carriage. Yue obediently responded, perhaps tired, and nestled in his mother's arms, slowly falling asleep. "Your Highness, Yue." The woman in the carriage, her eyes red, could not say another word. The man sighed deeply and slowly said, "The immortal offerings in the capital have all left to return to their respective sects to fight. The alien races invading Zhao Kingdom are extremely powerful. As far as I know, the immortals in Zhao Kingdom have been utterly defeated and have all gathered in one place." The woman wiped away her tears, looking at the child in her arms and softly spoke, "Why are they searching for these children?" The man took a deep breath and bitterly smiled. "Last night, during a secret conversation with the Emperor, I learned that they are looking for children with cultivation potential. Their plans are likely far-reaching. Sigh, if only our ancestors were here. At this moment, it was likely that even the Patriarch could not pay attention to us. His sect was also being invaded by those alien races. Now, all hope rested on the ancestral residence." The man sighed deeply, his gaze falling on the child. In the capital, 3 children had already been taken by the alien races, their fates unknown. Yuo was the 4th. Fortunately, the man held immense power, so this time, he could escape with the child. "Your Highness, what is so special about the ancestral residence?" the woman asked softly, gazing at the sleeping child. The man fell silent for a moment, then shook his head and replied, "I don't know what's so special about the ancestral residence either. The ancestral teachings left by our forebears mention that if the Wang family faces extinction, we can enter the ancestral residence, open a certain object using our bloodline, and thereby preserve our lives." The woman was stunned. She and the man had been married for many years, but she had never heard of this matter. It is said that before our Wang family entered the capital, there was an immortal who was many times more powerful than even the Patriarch. This immortal had boundless magical power, and no one could stop him. Inside the ancestral residence, there are items he left behind back then. The man's eyes glowed with a bright gleam. More powerful than the Patriarch. The woman's eyes showed disbelief as she asked, "Is this ancestor still alive?" The man pondered for a moment, uncertain, and then said, "The Patriarch lived to nearly 200 years old, so it's likely that this ancestor lived even longer. He should still be alive now." The woman's eyes lit up, and she quickly said, "If this ancestor can help us, then Yue will be safe." The man shook his head with a bitter smile and said, "This is just a rumor. We don't know if it's true. In fact, no one knows whether this person even exists. However," the man hesitated for a moment. "What is it?" the woman quickly asked. According to the records in the Wang family's books, 200 years ago, in the Zhao Kingdom, both the immortal world and the mortal world were home to a powerful family. This family, the Tang family, was so formidable that all the immortals had to obey them, and even the emperors would bow to their members when they encountered them. The Tang family has been our Wang family's long-standing enemy. The man's voice echoed in the carriage. Then, one night, this Tang family was wiped out, all its members killed. It is said that the one who destroyed the Tang family was this ancestor. The carriage sped up, and 3 days later, they arrived at a manor. The manor wasn't large. 200 years ago, it had been a village, but it was bought by the Wang family, who transformed it into what it was now. After the carriage stopped, the bald giant, looking fatigued, jumped out and opened the door respectfully, saying, "Your Highness, we have arrived." The man got out, glanced at the manor, and a nostalgic look appeared on his face as he softly said, "When I was young, I lived here for a year with my father. 30 years have passed in the blink of an eye, and nothing has changed here." The woman followed him out of the carriage, and Yue also opened her eyes, curiously looking at the manor. "Follow me," the man said in a low voice, walking ahead. There were no servants in the manor, only some elderly people in their 60s and 70s, who came out to greet them. These elders had served the Wang family for generations, with unwavering loyalty. Though their hair was white, their eyes were sharp, and a single glance from them could send a shiver down one's spine. The bald giant was one such person. Looking at these elders, he was shocked. To him, it seemed that even the weakest of them could defeat him with a single move. Suddenly, his gaze fixed on one of the elders. His heart trembled when he saw the man's hands. He recognized him as the #1 martial artist in the martial world 20 years ago. Without a word, the man in the snake robe walked into the manor, leading his wife and child to the depths, where there was an extremely ordinary house. "Father," "Is this our family's ancestral residence?" Yuer asked curiously. The man nodded and was about to speak when suddenly, a thunderous roar came from the distance. Moments later, two men, covered in runes at various spots on their bodies, appeared in the air above the manor. One of them, with a gloomy expression, scanned the ground and said flatly, "You're quite fast." The man's face changed drastically, and he immediately stood in front of his wife and child. He looked at the two men with a bitter smile and said, "Sirs, whatever disputes you have with the immortals has nothing to do with us mortals. Why must you make things difficult for us?" The elderly people surrounding them all stared at the two men in the sky with piercing eyes. The man with the dark expression coldly glanced at the man in front of him. Then with a swift motion of his right hand, he grabbed the air. His goal here was clear, the child with the spiritual root. At that moment, all the elders suddenly shouted in unison, stepping forward to block the man's path. Though their physical bodies were no match for the two men, they still tried to resist. There were several loud thuds as the elders spat blood, their bodies thrown in all directions. The man's face changed drastically. Without a word, he grabbed his wife and child, quickly retreating into the ancestral residence. Once inside, beads of cold sweat appeared on the man's face. His eyes turned bloodshot. He pressed a hand down on a row of ancestral tablets, and immediately, a hidden compartment appeared. He quickly bit his tongue, drawing a symbol with his blood on the compartment. This symbol was something every family heir must engrave deeply in their mind at the moment they became the head of the family. Just then, a loud crash came from outside the ancestral residence. Countless fragments of walls turned to flying ash as a person with a dark expression stepped inside. The woman shielded the child behind her, her face showing a look of despair. At that moment, the place where the man had drawn the symbol suddenly flickered with strange light, and in an instant, a jade stone floated out of the hidden compartment. A strange force immediately enveloped the surroundings. The person with the dark expression immediately changed his countenance, retreating several steps with a startled look in his eyes. His companion in the sky also felt this strange force and was about to enter to investigate. Just then, the jade stone suddenly flashed. The man with the dark expression let out a terrible scream. His veins bulged as he quickly retreated. His eyes filled with incredulity and fear. On the jade slip, he felt an aura of annihilation. The strength of this aura was so powerful that even some of the four-leafed cultivators from his clan couldn't compare. However, after the jade stone activated, this person, with his cultivation level, would undoubtedly die. In a flash, the man with the dark expression spat out a mouthful of blood, retreated outside the ancestral residence, and collapsed to the ground, immediately dying. His companion, who had been about to rush in, was stunned for a moment. Without saying a word, he turned and fled. He clearly sensed that the aura within the ancestral residence was something he could not resist. However, he hadn't escaped far when, just as the jade stone flashed again, he also spat out a large mouthful of blood and fell dead to the ground. This bizarre scene immediately left the three people inside the ancestral residence in shock. The rumors were true, the man muttered to himself. The jade slip left behind by Wang Lin contained a trace of the extreme realm. With his cultivation back then, any nascent soul cultivator who encountered it would die. At this moment, at the foot of Hingyue Mountain in Zhao Kingdom, outside the Heavenly Dao sect, nearly all the cultivators of Zhao Kingdom had gathered here, each of them showing a look of anger, staring into the distance. In the emptiness they gazed at, there was only one person. This person had symbols covering most of his body, and standing there, a powerful aura enveloped the surroundings. "You Cultivation Nation is quite interesting. You've gathered everyone here. Could it be that you think there's a treasure here that can bring the dead back to life?" A hoarse voice came from the man's mouth. An elderly man in black robes, with white hair, flew out from the peak of the Heavenly Dao sect. His gaze fixed on the distant Immortal Remnant clan member, showing a look of hatred, and he spoke flatly, "You can give it a try." The man laughed heartily, his gaze flashing. His aura surged wildly, and the symbols on his body seemed to come alive, trembling and finally leaving his body to form rune dragons that flew around him. "Interesting. I wasn't planning to deal with you low-level cultivators. I was just passing by. But since you've said that, I'll see what treasure you have that makes you so confident." A trace of contempt appeared in his eyes. with his identity as a six-leaf spell curse master on this vermilion bird star. Unless he encountered a cultivator at the late spirit transformation stage, he had no rival. Moreover, he didn't believe there would be any cultivators at the late spirit transformation stage in such a small three-tier cultivation nation. With a single step, he moved towards the Heavenly Dao sect. The rune dragons circling around him immediately emitted howling sounds and shot towards the Heavenly Dao sect. The rune dragons were as fast as lightning, tearing through the air. All the cultivators of Zhao Kingdom gathered at the Heavenly Dao sect held their breath, their eyes filled with strange light. 200 years ago, there had been rumors in Zhao Kingdom that a native of Zhao Kingdom, after reaching the spirit transformation stage at the Heavenly Dao sect, had left behind a wooden carving as a legacy item. Whoever obtained it could become his direct disciple. This item was protected by his divine sense, and only someone with a deep connection would be able to unlock it. However, when Zhao Kingdom faced the risk of being destroyed, this item would unleash its great power. At the moment the rune dragons tore through the air, the entire Hengyue mountain suddenly shook violently. With a thunderous sound, a wooden carving rose from the top of the mountain. The moment the wooden carving appeared, the approaching rune dragons shuddered. The man from the Immortal Remnant clan's eyes immediately flickered with strange light. So, there's a fragment of a spirit transformation cultivator's legacy treasure here. But this spirit transformation cultivator's cultivation is too low, just at the early spirit transformation stage. Even if he came himself, I could still make him die here. How much more so for a mere artifact? The old man said slowly, the strange light in his eyes fading as he once again wore an expression of disdain. The cultivators gathered in Zhao Kingdom all looked up, their eyes fixed on the wooden carving. To them, this carving was a symbol of hope, the supreme treasure of Zhao Kingdom. Suddenly, the wooden carving trembled slightly, emitting a bright flash. Immediately, a light ring expanded from it, crashing into the rune dragons. Boom! Boom! The sound of a massive explosion echoed, as if a violent wind swept across the rune dragons. The runes on them flickered erratically, and soon, many of the runes dimmed. More than half of the rune dragons disappeared into the air. The remaining rune dragons shrank significantly in size. The cultivators from Zhao Kingdom, upon seeing this, couldn't hide their excitement. Huh? This item is quite interesting. It would be a shame to destroy it, a person from the Immortal Remnant clan said with a flash of his eyes, glancing at the wooden carving. Without saying another word, he waved his right hand in front of him, causing ancient runes, exuding a sense of age, to appear in the air. These runes circled around his body. With a single movement, he stepped forward. The wooden carving flashed again, and as the ripples expanded, they collided with the runes around his body. The runes shook violently, unable to resist, and ultimately disappeared. With a single step, the Immortal Remnant clan member crossed the distance and reached the wooden carving at the top of Hengyue Mountain. Reaching out with his large hand, he was about to grab it. The light from the carving suddenly flared brightly and rapidly expanded, but the Immortal Remnant clan member's gaze remained disdainful. He snorted softly, pressing his hand onto the carving. "Even if your master himself comes, I would still take it," he said, grabbing the carving in his hand. After a quick glance, he smiled and said, "Indeed a treasure. If I get the chance, I would like to meet the young one who left this carving behind." The Heavenly Dao sect on Hengyue Mountain fell into silence. All the cultivators stood still, silent as they watched. The symbol of their kingdom had been destroyed, and it seemed that Zhao Kingdom's fate was sealed. Considering the value of this item, I won't trouble you any further. From now on, you will be a vassal of my Immortal Remnant clan. It will surely be much better than surviving under the Vermilion Bird Kingdom, the Immortal Remnant clan member said, his voice dripping with more contempt. "My wooden carving is not something you can take." A calm voice suddenly resonated from the void. Moments later, two figures appeared out of thin air. The Immortal Remnant clan member quickly turned, staring in shock at the figures behind him. Despite his cultivation, he hadn't sensed anyone approaching, and he was immediately filled with dread. The two figures were none other than Wang Lin and Wang Zhuo. As soon as they appeared, the cultivators from Zhao Kingdom recognized Wang Lin. "Ancestor! Ancestor!" The excited cries rang out from nearly every cultivator. The shouts were so loud that, in an instant, it felt as though only those words echoed through the heavens and earth. "Ancestor!" Wang Lin smiled slightly, nodding in acknowledgement. The cries grew even louder. The Immortal Remnant clan member's face turned grim, and the contempt in his eyes vanished, replaced by deep apprehension. "Sir," he began, but Wang Lin immediately interrupted him. "Hand over my wooden carving." Wang Lin's voice was calm, yet it carried an undeniable authority. The Immortal Remnant clan member's expression darkened. He couldn't fully gauge Wang Lin's cultivation level. At first glance, Wang Lin seemed to be at the perfect late spirit transformation stage, but upon closer inspection, he noticed a strange force within Wang Lin's body, a force that he had heard of from his clan elders. It was the hallmark of a cultivator in the infant metamorphosis stage. After a moment of silence, the Immortal Remnant clan member raised his right hand without saying another word, throwing the wooden carving toward Wang Lin. Just as Wang Lin reached out to grab it, the Immortal Remnant clan member's eyes turned cold, and he shouted, "Rune, explode." In an instant, countless runes appeared on the wooden carving, glowing with a ghostly light. They exploded with a loud bang, sending out a powerful shockwave. Wang Lin's expression remained unchanged. He raised his right hand slightly, and an invisible force enveloped the exploding runes, immediately freezing them in midair and compressing them into a sphere the size of a fist. The sphere, filled with smoke, contained the shockwave from the rune explosion. The Immortal Remnant clan member's face turned pale in disbelief. He never imagined that his attack would be so easily neutralized. Infant metamorphosis. He muttered bitterly to himself, realizing the situation. Without hesitation, he turned to flee. He knew that with his strength, there was no way he could defeat a cultivator in the infant metamorphosis stage. He was as good as dead. How unlucky. A third-tier cultivation nation's ancestor turns out to be an ancient monster in the infant metamorphosis stage. Why does this have to happen to me? The Immortal Remnant clan member's heart sank as he prepared to escape. But suddenly, the world around him darkened. A huge spatial rift appeared behind him with a sharp crack, blocking his retreat. He froze in horror. Did I tell you to leave? Wang Lin glanced indifferently at the man, his right hand reaching for the wooden carving. He left a new divine sense imprint on it before tossing it into the distance, where it flew towards Mount Hangyue and sank into the mountain. Sir, according to our agreement, the Vermilion Bird Nation has given up on the third-level Cultivation Nation, in exchange for us postponing our attack on the fourth-level Cultivation Nation. Are you planning to break the agreement? The man from the Immortal Remnant clan spoke slowly, his expression dark. Wang Lin frowned and said, "Who made an agreement with you? Was it the Vermilion Bird Patriarch?" The man from the Immortal Remnant clan froze, glancing at Wang Lin, and said, "Since you are a practitioner of the infant metamorphosis stage, you must be familiar with Qianfeng. This agreement was made by Qianfeng on behalf of the Vermilion Bird Patriarch, in cooperation with our clan's young clan leader. Qianfeng." Wang Lin's gaze sharpened. He had heard that name twice, once from Lu Mei, and now again. Absurd. Wang Lin said coldly, raising his right hand and tapping the glowing sphere that had confined the rune explosion. Immediately, the sphere shook and abruptly moved, transforming into a blur as it shot towards the man from the Immortal Remnant clan. The man's expression changed dramatically, and with a quick motion, he pressed his hands to his forehead. A flash of green light appeared on his brow, and suddenly a six-leafed plant materialized, bursting out from his forehead to collide with the glowing sphere. Boom. The man from the Immortal Remnant clan was knocked backward, spitting blood, but the plant on his brow remained unharmed. In fact, its green glow grew stronger. Reluctantly, the man pulled back, swiping his hand in front of him. A purple wooden staff appeared in his hand, and with a point, ripples spread through the air. He leaped forward, intending to dive into the waves. The purple wooden staff was a branch of the reincarnation tree, and after the Immortal Remnant clan used a secret technique, it could communicate with the ancestral reincarnation tree for large-scale teleportation within the entire Vermilion Bird Star. Wang Lin's expression remained calm as he slowly raised his right hand and muttered, "Absorb." Centered on the man from the Immortal Remnant clan, a vast amount of cloud layers surged in, forming a massive light circle that quickly compressed, shrinking to a mere 3 meters in diameter in the blink of an eye. The man's face showed fear. The ripples in front of him, which had been meant for teleportation, lost their effect and shattered. A powerful oppressive force emanated from all directions and quickly descended upon him. A feeling of despair overwhelmed him. His eyes filled with panic as he formed strange hand seals and pressed them to his chest. With a rip, 10 bloodstains appeared on his chest, and a torrent of blood sprayed out. Immediately, the plant on his forehead surged forward, greedily absorbing the blood and rapidly growing. Within moments, it had completely covered the 3-meter-wide light circle. "If you kill me, the curse-mark power on me will be sensed by our clan's elders, and they will kill you." The man from the Immortal Remnant clan snarled, his face twisted with rage. Despite releasing his life force plant, He could not resist the surrounding pressure. With a series of cracking sounds, the light circle rapidly contracted to 1 meter, and the branches of the 7-leafed plant that supported the circle snapped one by one. With each break, the man spat blood, his face growing paler. Wang Lin remained unfazed and chuckled, "Immortal Remnant Clan? Have I not killed enough of you? Curse mark power? Is this what you mean?" Wang Lin pointed to his chest, and 5 clusters of gray mist appeared behind him. As the mist shifted, 5 gray runes flickered in the air, unstable and shifting. When Wang Lin reached the infant metamorphosis stage, he discovered that 5 strands of gray mist had appeared inside his body, hidden in the acupoints. Though they didn't harm him, they subtly facilitated the flow of his spiritual energy. The man from the Immortal Remnant Clan stared at the 5 gray mists, his face pale. He could sense the aura of a 6-leafed spellcaster within them. Clearly, these had been killed by Wang Lin. Wang Lin glanced at him indifferently and gestured with his right hand. Instantly, the light circle began to rapidly shrink. The man from the Immortal Remnant Clan grunted in pain as all the branches of the 6-leafed plant within the circle snapped. As the circle collapsed, he was crushed into a mass of blood and flesh. When the circle disappeared, the blood and flesh turned into shattered pieces, dissipating in a cloud of blood mist. With Wang Lin's current strength, killing this man was effortless, not even requiring the use of a magical artifact. After all, his conceptual realm and spirit transformation cultivation were not the same as ordinary cultivators. Within his domain, his spiritual energy was empowered by immortal power. At this moment, he had already taken a step into the infant metamorphosis stage. As long as he had enough immortal jade, he could fully advance. However, immortal jade was incredibly rare. Wang Lin stood in silence, looking at where the man from the Immortal Remnant Clan had fallen. The Vermilion Bird Patriarch actually has an agreement with the Immortal Remnant Clan. This is strange, and then there's Qian Feng. Wang Lin's eyes flickered. At this moment, a white-haired elder stepped out from the crowd of the Heavenly Dao sect, deeply bowing to Wang Lin. He said respectfully, "I, Tian Dao sect Shinfeng Xiao, greet the primordial ancestor. Salute to the Patriarch." As soon as the elder finished speaking, all the cultivators from the Zhao Kingdom immediately bowed in unison, their voices booming and echoing across the land. "I am not the primordial ancestor," Wang Lin shook his head and said. The elder took a deep breath and respectfully said, "You are the primordial ancestor of all the cultivators in the Zhao Kingdom. This was established 200 years ago when you achieved spirit transformation at the Heavenly Dao sect. Please, do not decline." Wang Lin sighed lightly and glanced at the land of Zhao Kingdom. This was the place where he was born and raised. In the blink of an eye, over 500 years had passed. Time had flown, and sometimes when he thought back on the past, it felt like a fading dream. "Patriarch, if you are not in a hurry, please rest at the Heavenly Dao sect for a few days, and let us, the younger generation, show our respect," the elder said, his eyes filled with intense reverence. Wang Lin hesitated for a moment. At this time, Wang Zhua, standing nearby, sighed and said, "Wang Lin, stay in Zhao Kingdom for a few days. Don't you want to visit the descendants of Fourth Uncle?" The elder froze for a moment, eyeing Wang Zhua carefully. Wang Zhua was a highly talented disciple of the Heavenly Dao sect, and the elder recognized him. But now, his words seemed unusual. Upon closer inspection, the elder suddenly noticed something strange. Although Wang Zhua looked the same as before, there was no longer any trace of the former Heavenly Dao sect disciple in his eyes. Instead, there was an air of profound weariness. Wang Zhua smiled at the elder and whispered a few words into his ear. After hearing this, the elder's body trembled suddenly. With a look of disbelief, he turned to Wang Lin, and after some time, he confirmed that what Wang Zhua had said was undoubtedly true. The elder bitterly smiled and respectfully said, "Salute to the Patriarch. Qin Fo Xiao, you were once my disciple, whom I personally brought to the Heavenly Dao sect. Back then, you were a young man just past your coming of age, and now, so many years have passed. The world has changed." Wang Zhua sighed lightly. Qin Fo Xiao nodded with a bitter smile, still in a daze. Wang Lin decided to stay at the Heavenly Dao sect. The cultivators of Zhao Kingdom, except for a few sect leaders, scattered and returned to their respective sections. At the Heavenly Dao sect, Wang Lin gave a lecture on the Dao to all the core formation cultivators of Zhao Kingdom. With his insights, he left them with a shadow of the Dao in their hearts, greatly increasing their chances of forming a nascent soul in their lifetime. For the few nascent soul cultivators, Wang Lin generously shared his experience in spirit transformation, clearing their confusion and showing them the path forward. 3 days later, Wang Lin and Wang Zhuo left the Heavenly Dao sect. Before departing, Wang Lin set up a powerful formation at the sect. Under this formation, all spirit transformation cultivators would be unable to enter. Only those with infant metamorphosis cultivation could break it. For a third-tier cultivation kingdom, such a formation was unprecedented. Generally, only sects in fifth-tier cultivation kingdoms would have protection arrays stronger than this one. Having completed his final task for Zhao Kingdom, Wang Lin no longer had any attachment to the land that had birthed and raised him. He followed Wang Zhuo to the capital city and quietly glanced at the descendants of the Wang family. Later, at the old ancestral home, he once again saw the Yue family of three. Yue's cuteness reminded him of his childhood friends, Denyo and Zhouru, evoking much nostalgia. Wang Zhuo took Yue in and began teaching him the art of cultivation. Before leaving, Wang Lin took the jade slips from the ancestral home's extreme realm and infused them with a trace of divine sense. Wang Zhuo did not return to the Heavenly Dao sect. Instead, he settled in the Wang family. 200 years ago, Wang Lin had used his divine power to place him into the body of a pregnant woman from the Wang family. Both in his previous life and this one, he had been born into the Wang family, and naturally, his bond with them far exceeded his attachment to Wang Lin. He intended to spend his life guarding the future generations of the Wang family. With that, the matter of Zhao Kingdom was concluded. However, Wang Lin still harbored a lingering thought, the Hengyue sect. After all, this sect had been the cradle of his cultivation journey. Before leaving Zhao Kingdom, Wang Lin decided to pay it a visit. He spread out his divine sense, and all the mountains and caves in Zhao Kingdom appeared in his mind. With a movement, he vanished from his spot. Based on his memory, Wang Lin appeared at a place called Elephant Snake Mountain. With a complicated look in his eyes, Wang Lin surveyed his surroundings. There was a formation here, but instead of breaking it, he simply waved his hand and passed through it, entering the interior of Elephant Snake Mountain. Inside, there was a vast cave mansion, and as Wang Lin entered, he was greeted by a scene of dust and neglect. It had been a long time since anyone had lived here. In the main hall of the cave mansion, there was a large jade stone, upon which 3 weathered words were carved. Hengyue sect. Wang Lin sighed and walked up to the jade stone, brushing away the dust. He stared at it for a long while, deep in thought. After a while, Wang Lin used his divine sense to scan the area and walked toward a nearby stone room. He broke the seal on the stone room's door, and before him appeared rows of shelves, scattered with some jade slips that emitted a faint glow. In the corner beside, there was another skeleton, sitting cross-legged. There were no cracks on the bones, nor any traces of injury from when it was alive. It was evident that the person had died of old age, at the end of their natural lifespan. The skeleton's right-hand index finger was pointing to the ground. Wang Lin stepped forward, brushed away the dust on the ground, and saw a row of characters. Heavenly Jade Sect, destroyed because of my own actions, ashamed of the ancestors, ashamed of the ancestors. Wang Lin fell silent, stepped back a few paces, and respectfully bowed towards the skeleton, softly speaking, disciple Wang Lin, pays respects to the senior. With a soft sigh, Wang Lin turned and walked towards the jade slips. He picked them up one by one, probing them with his spiritual sense. Finally, he stopped at one of the jade slips. The old man is slow-witted, not skilled in cultivation. In this life, I have always had a strange obsession with the sword, as though I lived my life for the sword. Yet, for some unknown reason, whenever my spiritual sense touches the sword, it shatters after a single breath, without exception. The word useless was made for someone like me. Without the ability to control a sword with my spiritual sense, I cannot fight with it, and I am ashamed to face my master. After I turned 80, I had a dream. In it, I was the soul of a sword, sweeping across the world, roaring through the 9 provinces, revered as the sword soul. When I woke, the sensation of that sword lingered in my mind for a long time. It felt as if that was my life's pursuit, my past life. I resolutely gave up on advancing in the foundation establishment stage and switched to forging swords. I wanted to forge that sword. This thought was so heavy, it felt like a form of obsession I could not shake. All my mind and energy were focused on it. I must forge that sword from my dream. After 10 years, during which I even humbled myself to beg for rare stones and metals from across the world, gathering countless materials for sword forging, I succeeded in forging several swords. Yet, none of them had the feeling from my dream, and I discarded them all with my own hands. This year, the Heavenly Jade Sect encountered a great calamity, with powerful enemies attacking, and destruction seemed imminent. I was born in Hingyue and, naturally, I would die in Hingyue. In this moment of crisis, I opened the forge for the last time. Time was limited. This time, I gave up on the rare materials of the world and used only ordinary iron. Quickly, I forged a large sword. By some divine will, when the sword was completed, I suddenly had an epiphany. I melted gold and applied it to the sword. Immediately, the sword shone with golden light. Looking at this sword, the feeling from my dream suddenly overwhelmed me. It felt as if my body lost control. I grabbed the sword, and in that moment, I seemed to return to my dream, becoming the soul of the sword. It was this feeling. I named the sword Colossal Fortune. Though the name is humble, it reflects my true thoughts. Holding this sword, all my mind seemed to vanish, merging with the sword. I broke out of the forge, defeated the great calamity of the Heavenly Jade sect, and then, I died with a smile, leaving behind a sword technique stored within the Colossal Fortune, hoping that a destined disciple in the future would treat this sword well. Wang Lin placed the jade slip down, closed his eyes, deeply moved. His reason for coming here was to view the past of Heng Yue, but searching for the origin of Colossal Fortune was also one of his goals. Past life sword soul. This Colossal Fortune is just like the immortal sword. Could it be that the soul of this senior contains the remnant sword soul of the immortal sword that shattered back then? Wang Lin opened his eyes, his gaze flickering. After a moment of contemplation, his figure vanished as he left the place. When he reappeared, he was outside Juming Valley, the same place where his storage pouch had once shattered. The sword sheath he had recovered from the spatial rift had been found there. Tearing open a spatial rift, Wang Lin leaned into it. This time, his only goal was the Colossal Fortune. This sword was forged from ordinary iron. After 500 years, I don't know if it still exists in this spatial rift, or if it vanished when the storage pouch broke. Unfortunately, my cultivation wasn't high enough back then to sense the sword technique within Colossal Fortune. Otherwise, Wang Lin sighed inwardly, sending out his spiritual sense to search through the rift. Half a month later, Wang Lin furrowed his brows as he stepped out of the rift, empty-handed. It seems the sword has already shattered. I must return to the soul refining sect quickly to find large quantities of immortal jade for my infant metamorphosis. Wang Lin's figure flashed, disappearing from the spot, reappearing at an ancient teleportation array, which then transported him away to the Zhao Kingdom. In the western part of Vermilion Bird Star, a cultivation nation at the 4th level, now occupied by the Immortal Remnant clan, the local cultivators had become vassals of the Immortal Remnant clan. At this moment, outside the border of this place, stood a person, wearing a straw hat and surrounded by golden light. Wang Lin, you finally returned. The senior knew of your return the moment you set foot on Vermilion Bird Star. I hope you won't disappoint him. The person clapped their storage pouch, and a jade slip appeared in their hand. You helped Zhou kill Li Yuanfeng and sealed the Snow Domain Kingdom. I, Zhou Wutai, have nothing to repay you with, so I give you this. Inside is the Willow Eyebrow conceptual realm that I realized at the cost of my life. I hope you can, as the senior predicted, devour the Tao heart of this Willow Eyebrow and achieve the Vermilion Bird momentum. With a single step, the person vanished from the spot. In the northern part of the Pilu Kingdom on the Vermilion Bird continent, within an ancient teleportation array, as rings of light rose, Wang Lin's figure appeared. He stepped out of the array, his body transforming into a streak of rainbow light, rushing straight towards the soul refining sect.